He's a Hall of Famer himself.
I don't know how many of you listen to our radio games, but this guy right here is the best. I mean, he is so good. Yes. Well, this is not going to be easy. Golly. But I'm just going to start out here. This is his coin phrase. Welcome to the campus of Wright State University and another night of exciting Raider Roundball. You know, Gordy, he has a patent on that saying. He invented the word Raider Roundball. I don't know when he started using it, but every Raider fan that's come to a Wright State game for a long, long time, that's how Gordy has introduced him to the game. And he just invented that, and I don't know when he started it, but it's like somebody said earlier.
Genesis.
Well, I was there, so. But beyond Gordy's contributions to Wright State go far beyond those of just being its PA announcer. You know, Gordy spent 51 years as a college professor, first at Miami University in Oxford and then up here at Wright State. And in the late 60s, when Wright State president at that time, Brad Golding, he decided to have an ad hoc committee to determine whether it was feasible to Wright State to even have an athletic program. Think about that. I mean, it's a new university, and Gordy was selected to be on that committee, and he actually drafted the first constitution for the athletic council that was going to be formed. You know, he's like the Thomas Jefferson of Wright State athletics. All right? He was the first chairman of that athletic council. He served on the athletic council for 21 years. And I want to tell you, I was telling somebody this a little earlier. You think of the athletic council today, it's an advisory type committee. I don't even know how much power they have. But when that athletic council was formed back in the early days, there wasn't a thing Coach Ross and I could do without getting approval from the athletic council. We couldn't offer a scholarship to a player until we got approval from the athletic council, which I always thought was at the time it was very, very frustrating, but it was really good because one thing I think Wright State has always done is they waited until they were ready to do something before they made that decision. And that's what the athletic council was at that time. He was at the microphone at Stebbins High School when Wright State won its first ever intercollegiate basketball game on December 14th, 1970 against Grand Valley State University. He was on the athletic council when Wright State decided to make the move from Division II to Division I. When Wright State became an NCAA member in the mid-70s, Gordy served as Wright State's faculty representative to the NCAA and served in that capacity for 19 years. Now what that person does is every year there's an NCAA convention, and each university has a representative that is a voting member to vote on issues relative to college athletics. And Gordy always teased, well, Don doesn't know how I'm going to vote when I'm there. He talked about Don Moore. But I always vote how Don would vote. Well, yeah, sure. But anyway, he was the voting member for our university all those years when he was the faculty representative. As you know, Gordy has been a tremendous sports fan all his life, and in particular a basketball fan. And so it was an easy decision when Don Moore, our first athletic director here at Wright State, selected Gordy as the PA announcer. And I can just hear the conversation down at the old Airway Inn on Colonel Glenn Highway, where they would go to lunch quite often. It wasn't a situation where he asked Gordy, he told Gordy, you will be the PA announcer. But as a PA announcer, Gordy was always the ultimate professional. You know, as a basketball coach, you hear PA announcers all the time, and some of them are play-by-play guys. They tell you obviously everything that happens. Some of them are partisan to their own teams, they're cheerleaders. Gordy was never any of that. But there was never any doubt in anybody's mind when Wright State made a big basket, just the passion in his voice that it was an important deal. He was just the ultimate professional. In 1981, we were recruiting Andy Warner, who was a standout basketball player from Gordy's hometown of Pickla. He was a player we absolutely had to have, and Gordy was very instrumental in our recruitment of Andy Warner, who became a really good player here at Wright State. Well, these are some of the achievements in Gordy's career you might know about, but there's some that you probably don't know about. Although Gordy played high school basketball and was captain of his team at Houston High School, probably his greatest athletic achievement was he won the free throw contest, intramural free throw contest at 3 different universities. Okay? He may be the only person in the world that's ever done that. He won the free throw contest at Miami University when he was a student. Then he goes to Indiana. All those hotshot Indiana shooters, he goes over there and he's in graduate school at Indiana University. He wins it there. How about that, Juan? Yeah. It gets better. Then he comes here as a college professor, and he not only wins it once, he wins it twice. One time he made 97 out of 100. This is the real trip, Juan. He shoots him underhand. He shoots him underhand. Now, the only thing about that, Gordy, is it tells you your age. I remember this vividly. When Gordy was here at Wright State, he developed a mathematical analysis to measure the strength of every college basketball schedule in the country. And his results were published in a national basketball publication, the Basketball Times. He did this for over 40 years. And Gordy, on occasion, would get calls or notes from college coaches around the country wanting to know where their schedule ranked so they could go in and tell their athletic director why they were losing so many games. That's a true story. And he did that for a long time, ranked everybody's schedule. Now, today they do that anyway, but he was a pioneer in that and did it for over 40 years. They showed this in the clip, and I didn't know they were going to show this in the clip, but one of the highlights of my young career here at Wright State was in 1974 when we were on this intramural good old profs team. I was the youngest guy on the team, and we were playing against all these young whippersnappers that played fast pitch softball. Well, Gordy was our pitcher. He's in his mid-40s. He's throwing his final game as a pitcher. He's going to retire after this game, and he pitches a 1-0 shutout to win the intramural championship here at Wright State University, and I was his catcher, a left-handed catcher. What a combination, left-handed pitcher, left-handed catcher. Think about this for a second. Gordy Wise is probably the only person alive who has witnessed almost every memorable moment that has occurred on this campus in Wright State basketball history. He was at the microphone for the first ever Wright State basketball game played, the first and last games played in the PE building, including several NCAA Division II tournament games. He was there for the last second shot against Tennessee State when Sean Hammonds tipped the ball in at the buzzer to beat Tennessee State in the inaugural game here at the Nutter Center. He was there when Bill Edwards broke the all-time scoring record with his 45 points. When Delmy Harriman scored the winning basket on a full length of the court shot against Xavier with 1 second to go to beat them in the NCC tournament. He was there the night that Wright State upset number 4 ranked Michigan State. He was there for both conference wins when Wright State beat UIC and beat Butler to advance to the NCAA tournament. And many other moments too numerous to mention. How many times did he say, "Basket by Vaughn Duggins"? That happened a few times. "Basket by Mark Best." That happened a few times. Yes, Gordy Wise has seen it all. And I'm sure Gordy can tell you many other great memories from his 49 years as a PA announcer, and I'm sure he will when he gets up here. But there's one memory that I kind of have that I want to share with you because probably none of you were at this game, but it happened in 1983. We had just won the Division II National Championship in March. And that summer, Coach Underhill got a phone call from Walt Hazzard. Now, Walt Hazzard, for those of you know, was a great, great player at UCLA, an All-American player at UCLA, was on Johnny Wooden's national championship team maybe once, maybe twice, but he was a great college basketball player, played in the NBA for a number of years, and he was now coaching at Chapman College, which is a school, Division II school out in LA. And he called Ralph and he wanted to see if he could schedule a game with the defending national champions. He knew he was going to have a good team. He wanted to bring him to the Midwest and test his lads against the best. So in December of 1983, that game became a reality. Chapman came to the PE building. They were undefeated, ranked second in the country. But things didn't go very well for Coach Hazzard and his team. It was a tough night. And so behind more than 20 points late in the game, after arguing with the referees on numerous occasions throughout the game, a clearly frustrated Coach Hazard decided he had had enough. So he looked at his team, said, "Come on, guys," and he started to walk off the floor, take his team to the locker room. There was about 4 minutes to go in the game. And for some reason, he must have thought that Carl Benner, our official scorekeeper, and Gordy Wise, our PA announcer, were as much to blame for his team's poor performance as the referees. So as he's walking off the floor, he walks over to the scorer's table, picks up a half can full of Coke, and proceeds to pour it on Carl Benner's official scorebook. He then turns to Gordy, grabs his microphone, tosses it across the floor, and proceeds to walk off the court. Well, Coach Underhill and the referees intercepted him. He agreed to finish the game. We finished the game, but it was another memorable night. Gordy Wise's 49 years of doing PA. It's a real honor. I mean, Gordy's a dear friend. He's been a dear friend for years and years. When I was, Coach Ross was my high school coach, and he was the first coach here at Wright State, and he wanted me to be his assistant coach. I was the first assistant coach hired at Wright State, and I remember this vividly. I had just gotten home from Vietnam, and John wanted me to be the coach, his assistant coach. He says, "There's just one more hurdle we have to pass. You have to be approved by the athletic council." And I can remember going into that room with Gordy and Carl and a few other people and getting grilled about what kind of coach I was going to be. And fortunately, they approved me and I became an assistant coach. And so our friendship goes back a long, long ways. And it's a real honor and privilege for me to introduce Wright State Hall of Famer, Gordy Wise.
Tough act to follow.
Well, you'll do fine. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Okay. Your glasses, Jim?
Those are mine.
Way. You know, I told Jim just now you're a tough act to follow, but looking at this program and seeing Harold Miller, Cassandra Lloyd, and Vaughn Duggins, that's the ultimate tough act to follow, guys. Oh, cow. Talk about feeling honored. Wow. This 85-year-old guy feels freaking honored. I'll just tell you that. So many thank yous that are in order. Thanks to Jim. Oh my. Jim, you should remember, as he said, that game and the intramural championship was 45 years ago. That boggles my mind. Thanks to Jim. What an introduction. I got to thank Tom Archdeacon and Rob Kaiser. Those two guys did stories that appeared in the newspaper this week that left me gasping for breath, like, holy cow, who is this guy you're talking about? Thanks to the committee who made that decision, to Bob Noss, Bob Grant. Thanks to my family, a ton of them here. Hey, I've got 7 kids and they are all here. And of my 15 grandchildren, I think the actual count's 13 and 2 great-granddaughters and a great-grandson who's still 3 months away in his mom's tummy. Thanks, guys. We're going to have a little 18-year-old cigar ritual at home later on tonight. I have two of those grandsons are 18, and it's been a family ritual for a long time. A cigar with granddad. They don't have to finish it. I got to thank God for the opportunities that I've had. Now you hear from from Jim's description of the opportunities to be a part of the crew that was really putting all this together. You know, I think the term present at the creation fits this. And why? Hey, it's a function of right place, right time. Come on. Right place, right time. I can actually guess I can say present before the creation, because Jim went through some of the things that happened before we even had a sports team. Let me tell you a story quickly about a guy who, in so many ways, was not just a mentor, but he was, man, so important to my life. The guy's name was Black. J.B. Black. He was the first dean of the College of Business. He and I came to Wright State. It wasn't even Wright State then. The first year when we came up here in the summer of 1966, the official title was the Dayton campus of Miami University and Ohio State University. But we knew that within the year it was going to be an independent state university. And as a young marketing professor at Miami, I looked at that opportunity and said, that sounds like ground floor. And isn't it? Wasn't it? Come on. What can I say? Present at or even before the creation. Well, J.B. Black, probably had to be during the second year I was here, because we had no sports. We had no name. That name actually got picked out during that first year. I wasn't on the committee. That's one committee I missed. But present at the creation. So JB walks in my office one day. Now JB was a jock. JB could have passed as a Mississippi River boat gambler. He was a swashbuckler of the first magnitude. I'm wondering, is there anybody in this room that even remembers J.B. Black? Because he was only here 3 years before he went off to greener pastures to save his old military school, and he ended up being the dean at Ball State for a long time. J.B. walked in my office and he said, "Gordy, I am appointing you to the Big Ten committee." Really? So JB, what's up? And then he added, "I'm appointing myself," because the president, that was Brady Golding, had asked each dean to appoint 2 of his regular faculty members to that feasibility committee that Jim mentioned to study, do we do athletics? And JB wanted to be a part of it too. He called it the Big Ten committee. What kind of a hint does that give you? So that was my first exposure. And as Jim pointed out, I don't know how the chairman decided to do this. He was a geology professor and a good guy, 10, 15 years older than me. And he gave me that assignment of drafting the first prospective constitution for what was referred to then as an athletic council to govern sports if we created them. Gosh, what an interesting experience that was. Literally, our committee decided, yes, we'll tell them, let's go for it. And so the faculty group that governed essentially the whole university passed that, and we were off to it. And because there was an athletic council and each dean had charge of seeing that one of his faculty members was on it, Jim that started it, that's where those 21 years, and then the other guy who put me into the creation that you nailed so well was Don Moore and the Airway Inn, and you're going to be the PA announcer. Again, right place, right time, right? Right state, right place, right time. Yeah, those 49. But you know, the thing that a person, and probably many of you, really only think of me as all those years with the PA. That was the icing on the cake. And the other stuff, well, that was fun too. Really was absolutely beyond fun. We got to hire John Ross, but we almost didn't. Because the morning that the athletic council gathered to interview John Ross, the Dayton paper broke the story that John was to be interviewed and hired. that didn't set well with some of the characters on that athletic council. And it was almost like John's career got shortcutted before it ever started. Jim, I would add one thing, or actually correct one thing, because you were in Vietnam and you didn't know this was going on. The very first year that we had basketball, the year before Jim arrived to join John's staff, we played a JV freshman schedule. We played a full 25 games or so. And our very first game, I was there. I was sitting in the stands with Don Moore's wife, Marion, and it was at Cedarville College, down University, and we beat Cedarville's JVs in overtime. That was the actual first ever win. Now it was a freshman JV schedule, and the varsity part of it came on the next year. Jim joined John, and hey, you could almost say the rest is history. Oh my! And then came the PE building after Stebbins High School. Let me tell you a couple things about Stebbins High School. Their sound system sucked. And I certainly was in the best position to describe that. But for 2 years, I think it was just 2, that was our home. And God bless them, we certainly needed it. So now we're building PE building. What a monstrous move forward that was. Actually, and Jim may challenge me on this one, I think we tried to play there a little too soon. I want to remember the first night. It was a good, strong Division III team. Remember who it was, Jim?
Otterbein.
Otterbein, absolutely. And only half of the stands were there. One side was empty and the other side had stands. And we lost that game because 2 of our players, and again, this is one Jim may challenge, Tim Walker and Bill Fote, as I recall, they just wouldn't quit shooting coming down the stretch. We lost the freaking game, and the next 2 games that we played were not at the PE building. It was the Benner Gymnasium in Xenia. And John Ross was so angry at Tim Walker that he bitched. He didn't play him the whole game, and we lost that one too. But then we came back in the PE. Oh my. Hey, he told the Walt Hazzard story. That was amazing. Yeah, I've seen a lot of very interesting developments in the program over the years. I got to tell this, and my wife will threaten to kill me. But one birthday of mine, she just groaned. She hired a belly dancer with the full intent of staging the belly dancer's performance for my birthday at halftime at mid-court. Now, Dave Stahl was the SID then. Mike Cusack was the AD. It got toned down to the Raider Lounge after the game. And the world hasn't quite been the same ever since. Oh, my. I could tell stories of NCAA conventions the rest of this night because as the faculty rep, and Jim got it right, I had the green paddle. That was the way it was done. They didn't have electronic voting at those national conventions. It was a green paddle. Maybe the green was a Division II color or something like that. The first president who demanded the paddle was, I can't say it, the guy who really is responsible for the litter. Yeah, Page Mulholland, bless his heart, rest his soul. He was the first president to go along. Bob Kegris did not. He turned that responsibility of going along over to one of his administrators. And so Don Moore, the AD, and me as faculty rep, and Peggy Weinkoop went to a number of those. Yeah, but I had the paddle, which absolutely didn't mean I overruled anything Don Moore wanted to do. Come on, he was totally man in charge. Fun stuff. I got to talk about Carl Benner just a little bit. Not just because his widow is here and what a role she played, but Benner and I were something of a team in that during such a long period in athletic council, he was the chairman. And of course I was the NCAA faculty rep. And at the table, he was the official scorekeeper. And I had the PA. And that friendship and that teamwork, I think, worked very well. In fact, and this is a little known story, I don't even know if Jim knows this one. One year, we were going to an NCAA Division II regional tournament, and it was Kentucky Wesleyan. And Don, the AD, couldn't make the first day. And those tournaments would typically be played on Friday night and Saturday night. He couldn't be out there for Thursday when there would always be a meeting of the representatives of the 4 schools involved in that regional. So here's what Don did. He appointed Carl and myself as the co-acting athletic directors for Wright State. Now, I don't know who he told or notified, but Carl and I went out there. We'd gone anyway. We found our way into wherever the room was where this meeting was to be held. I remember we had to go through some kind of a tunnel and through some curtains, and all of a sudden we were in the room, and these people sitting around the table looked up and said, "Who the hell are you?" We said, co-acting athletic directors, Wright State. So, yeah, Carl and I went through a lot of marvelous times together. Hey, it's been a ride. It's been a trip. It's been fun. Absolutely fun. And honor? Come on, you can't do it any better than what you're doing tonight. God bless you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All of you. And congratulations to the other 3 superstars that I am so proud to join. And hey, Carl, I'm in the hall too.
Coming to the end of our program here tonight.